trail continues here in Longford for the Ardmore Air Conditioning Corps Midland Moto Stages Rally in association with the Longford Arms Hotel and Spa, which marks round 2 in this exciting championship.
Despite some inclement weather, the opening round in Abbeyleix was a huge success, and round 2 looked set to be even better, as another full capacity entry list, glorious sunshine and challenging stages all combined to provide the perfect recipe for a great day's rallying.
With the new title sponsor on board, the Midlands Motor Club has enjoyed a huge boost this year, with crews and competitors travelling from all over Ireland to take on this challenging 9-stage event.
The stages out there are very fast, so it is going to be hard work. I'd say the times will be fairly close between us all, so yeah, it's at least the weather's with us today, so it should be good.
Declan, you've new livery. She looks absolutely gorgeous, and a great day for a rally.
Yes, the car looks good and it's going good. A great day for the rally, thank God. It's nice to get a bit of dry weather for a change.
Roy, serious competition out there.
Yeah, massive. It's always serious here in the National Championship. We had a good run in the last rally, we had third, so trying to improve on that today.
Rally fans and marshals endure everything the Irish weather can throw at them, so they certainly know how to make the most of it when conditions are fine. And it was great to see some familiar faces amongst the crowds, along with some potential rally stars of the future. Josh Moffat set the fastest times on the relatively short opening 2 stages to lead by 5.1 seconds with navigator Andy Hayes. At 19 kilometres, stage 3 was almost double the length, and Moffat could only increase his advantage by 0.2 of a second. Trailing Moffat and Hayes were the Boyle cousins, Declan and Brian. The Donegal crew were pleased to have kept in touch with the rally leaders after being caught cold early on at the opening round.
One right over 2 crests, up into 3 left over crest, nose in here, 3 left over crest, nose in. And then a 2 left over crest, absolute cut, and a 2 left again, line, 2 right over jump here, 2 right over jump, and a 2 right, line, 2 left over crest, straight through here, 130 to square right, comes quick, square right. Good man, well done, well done. 1 right over crest, 250.
Roy White and James O'Brien were looking to improve their pace after a 3rd place finish in Abbeyleix, but the former champions were already 29 seconds off the top spot and at a loss as to where they could make up the time. James Stafford was showing fantastic pace once again in his rear-wheel drive Darien T90 and was 3rd overall after the opening test. Roy White moved ahead after stage 2, but Stafford was still showing a clean pair of heels to a number of World Rally cars as he held 4th with navigator Jeff Case.
We had a good first loop of stages. I know to kind of suit the car, like, but it was tricky in places. But no, we're here anyway.
Ian Barrett and Paul McKee had been just a handful of seconds off Stafford and Case in their similar spec Darien, but after surviving 1 or 2 minor bumps and scrapes, the pair finally had to call it a day with mechanical trouble on stage 3. After a disappointing 9th place finish at the opening round, Joe McGonigal was enjoying the drier conditions at round 2. He was 5th overall, with Kieran Geeney calling the notes in the Mini WRC.
30, chicane, left entry, 4 bales, reasonably fast, enter, 2 left then, 50, 2 right, 20, 3 right, 30, 1 left, 40 to 3 left on cut, enter, 4 right, half long.
Having missed the opening round, it was imperative that Padraig Egan got some points on the board in Longford, and his Impreza WRC was 6th, just 5.3 seconds off McGonigal's Mini.
Let into now, and a long 2 left over to the 3 left in. You have the 3 right here now. Into a long 2 left, tightens to 3. 1 right, 200.
Former tarmac rally champion Darren Gass was putting his new for-hire Skoda Fabia R5 through its paces, and the Armagh driver admitted to being a little rusty after a bit of a break from the sport. A loose wire caused some early ignition issues, but he was leading Class 5 and holding 7th overall after the opening loop. Holding 8th place, Pater Herson didn't have a great opening loop. The former national champion felt he was on the wrong tyres and suffered a number of overshoots on stage 2.
You need a tidier loop next one.
Yeah, we do, and change the tyres and maybe harden the car up as well, and maybe waking up a bit also, maybe.
Defending Rally.ie two-wheel drive and Triton Mark II champion Chris Armstrong had a minor emergency at the start of stage 1 when his intercom system failed. He eventually got it working, and apart from running later on the road, he was going well and holding 2nd in class and 9th overall.
Turn hairpin left. Turn hairpin left. 150. 1 8. Big press jump. 200. Wet tires. Caution. 4 left. Water. 80.
Just 3.2 seconds further back was the Toyota Corolla of tarmac modified champion Kevin Eves, as a fascinating battle between the reigning national and tarmac two-wheel drive champion title holders heated up.
Short 5 left over crest bump and 4 left plus hug. Good, and 4 left plus hug, 60. 6 left, 60 crest bump, 5 right, 100. 5 right, 5 left in, 200. Turn square right, neat. Turn square right, neat. Come on.
It was good to see Hugh Hunter back on Irish stages. The Welsh driver was a title contender a few seasons back driving a Subaru WRC, and he was enjoying the fast-flowing Longford stages, this time in his Ford Focus WRC. Since emigrating to New York from his native Longford over 30 years ago, Paul Rowley has returned regularly in recent years to take part in the National and Tarmac Championship. This year he's gone even further and supported his hometown club as new title sponsor of the Ardmore Air Conditioning Midland Moto Stages Rally.
Yeah, it's an honour really, because 35 years ago I competed in this event in the Mark II Escort, and then I emigrated. So to be able to come back and compete, but also to be the title sponsor, it's an absolute pleasure for me. And I'm delighted to give back, because I don't get the marshal, and it's a tribute to the marshals and the officers of the club. That's why we're doing this, so it's an honour.
Jeremy, it takes so much work and effort to put an event like this together.
Yes, Olive, it takes a huge amount of effort to put an event like this together for Midland Motor Club. We've been months in preparation to turn the plans that we made into a reality this weekend.
While the over 2.1 litre cars of Class 14 were leading the overall two-wheel drive standings, there was an intense contest between the 2 litre machines of Class 13, where Peter Wilson and John McCarthy were currently leading in the Mark II Escort. Paul Clark and Martin Byrne were just 0.6 of a second behind in their Escort. Class 13 winners from the opening round, David Moffat and Martin Conley in the Starlet, were a mere 10th of a second further back in third. A newcomer to Class 13, having stepped up from the 1600cc junior division, Gareth Black wasn't quite on the pace yet in his newly built Toyota Starlet.
And it's 100 to your chicane, right entry. Repeat, right entry. Good man. 200.
Younger brother Jason Black took the junior title in 2018 and was going well in Class 11R, having taken victory at the opening round in his 1600cc Starlet.
1 right over crest and pass, 3 left up and 2 left over dip. Into jump, into 1 left, and care 2 right over bump. Into 2 right, into 2 left, don't cut, 130, stop, slot unseen, square right.
Jason, you've changed classes this season?
Yeah, I'm up into the main field now, so race to the big boys.
And Gareth, this Starlet, you built it from scratch?
Yeah, I started last year and got it finished there just in time for a burr, so this is the second one I done.
In Group N, also known as the showroom category, there was a tight battle for supremacy, with Michael Boyle leading by just 3 seconds after 3 stages. Niall Devine had taken over the lead after stage 2, but slipped behind Boyle on the long third test.
There is a great battle going on in Group 1 at the moment. Michael, Niall, the battle's on.
The battle's on. Michael, he nipped me again the last one, I think, so I think he's back in front again. So we'll just have to keep going. Maybe he might slow down a bit or something.
I don't think so, somehow. Michael, you're finding the stages are suiting you.
Yeah, I like the stage now. They're a bit fast and they're tricky and they're a mixture. But no, you go through a 9, 10, the last stage 19 kilometre stage, and a handful of seconds. It's great racing, so it's enjoyable.
So that's how the overall leaderboard stood after the opening 3 stages. But with 2 more loops of 3 to come, it's still all up in the air at the Midland Moto Stages Rally.
The sun is shining here as the drivers and navigators take a well-deserved break. And we'll be taking one too. Join us for more in part 2.
Welcome back to Longford for part 2 of the Ardmore Air Conditioning Corps Midland Moto Stages Rally. As the crews serviced their cars before the next loop of stages, Olive bumped into former national and tarmac rally champion John Coyne. Based in the US for the past 30 years, John comes back to compete every now and then in his championship-winning Talbot Sunbeam Lotus and a Porsche 997. But this year he's helped launch a new initiative to support the development of young rally drivers in Ireland through the Motorsport Ireland Rally Academy.
Well, we're trying to create a better ladder to bring young talent on and get them to a position where they can represent Ireland on the world stage. Hopefully that'll help folks to develop and get more people like Craig Breen out there. The sport's been very good to me over the last 50 years that I've been rallying, and thought it was time to give something back.
No doubt John will be keeping a close eye on the junior contest, which got underway on the afternoon stages. And after stages 4, 5 and 6, it was former champion Brian Brady who emerged with the overall lead, with Edel Hennessy navigating in the standard spec class 16 Honda Civic. Junior winners from the opening round, Michael Hamilton and Shane Byrne, had been second in their similar machine, but they retired on stage 5. David Kelly and Kenny Bustard were second overall in the Toyota Starlet, but leading Class 16A for cars with a little more power under the bonnet. The junior classes were well contested, with over 20 crews battling it out across the Longford lanes, with some really committed driving throughout the field. One driver really enjoying the day was Anya Phelan, who was making the switch to the driving seat after a number of years of calling the notes for her dad, Kieran.
Anya, you've just sat in the driving seat for your first 3 stages. How have they gone for you?
Grant, it was a bit of an experience to say. A bit of late braking caused us to lose an indicator light in the chicane, but really good to get the first 300 minutes. Cannot wait for the next 3.
Back to the overall battle now, where Josh Moffat was still leading, having set 2 fastest times out of 3 on the second loop of stages. Sadly, the rally ended on stage 4 for Declan and Brian Boyle. Their Fiesta WRC clipped a chicane bale, spun and collided with another bale, damaging a front wheel. Now up to second, Roy White survived a spin of his own on stage 6, leaving the margin to leader Moffat at over 1 minute with just 3 stages to go.
Car was a bit better, we made some changes, and then we had a bit of a half spin, overshoot / off. A bit of damage to the front of the car, but not too serious. So we just need to get it ready and head back out for the next loop and try and stay in second.
For the second time in the rally, James Stafford climbed up to 3rd overall while leading the 2-wheel drive section, although he was slightly concerned with some gear selection issues in his Darien. Closing in on Stafford after 2 clean runs on stages 4 and 5, Padraig Egan slipped back to 8th overall after a spin and stall on stage 6. Pater Herson was much happier with the harder tyres and stiffer suspension setup for the second loop, and he climbed from 8th to 4th overall. Joe McGonigal in 5th had some head gasket worries and was keeping an eye on the oil pressure gauge, and he could also see how Declan Boyle came a cropper at that chicane bale on stage 4.
Then good 60 chicane, right entry, 4 bales, fairly open save. Goes on round, just watch the last one. Whoa! Into 2 left, 150.
Easy seeing a Boyle hit that chicane.
Yep.
We weren't far away ourselves.
The second loop saw a change in the battle between the defending tarmac and national two-wheel drive champions as Kevin Eves moved ahead of Chris Armstrong, the latter suffering his own altercation with the chicane bale on stage 6. He trailed Eves by 10 seconds at the final service halt.
Chris, a few moments out there.
Yeah, that last stage we got caught out coming into chicane and hit it, dropped a couple of seconds, but we're happy enough. We had a good out battle with Kevin Eves all day, so we'll just keep it steady and bring it to the end.
We only went into the last stage a second off him, so we've took 8 or 9 off him there again, so there's damn all in it, so we have another 3 to go to kind of get finished up, so happy out.
To the final loop of 3 stages, and before we see how the overall battle pans out, let's wrap up the various classes now. There was huge disappointment for former junior leader Brian Brady, who retired after clipping a chicane and damaging a wheel on the very last stage. Taking the Class 16 win and 5th overall juniors were Stephen Reynolds and Derek McCarthy. Nigel Roach and Andrew Cronin improved stage by stage to take 3rd overall in the juniors.
6 right continues over Chris, the shock 4 left. Shock 4 left. 40. Crest 100. Here 4 right over Chris that stage. 4 right. Into 6 left 200.
After a slow start and some minor mishaps, Johnny Armstrong and Phil Mitchell got to grips with the Citroen C2 and finished 2nd in the juniors. David Kelly and Kenny Bustard took over the junior lead on stage 8, and with Brady's retirement on stage 9, they won the class by almost 2 minutes in the end.
You know, the conditions suited the car very well today, and the load to grip and the stages were mighty, and it was a very well run rally, and we really enjoyed the day.
In the historic class, Malcolm Pedlow and John Henderson had been leading until retiring their BMW on the very last stage. Alan Fleming and Paul Tierney took the historic win in their Escort. Des Roach and Dan Brown took the Class 1 win in their Honda Civic. Nick Barnett and Martin Brady won Class 2 in their Ford Fiesta. Local man Packy Duffy had to settle for the runner-up spot in Class 3, but he won the Sligo Pallets Drive of the Day award with navigator Evan Hughes. Taking Class 3 honours were John Hayes and Richard Cleary in the Honda Civic R3. In Class 9, Brendan Friel and Jason McCahill were victorious in their Nissan Micra. Peter and Shane Farrell won Class 10 in their Toyota Corolla. Brian Lavelle and Shane Corcoran took the honours in Class 11F. Jason Black and Carl Egan made it 2 from 2 in Class 11R, a great start to their season. Defending Sligo Pallets Border Rally champions Brian Armstrong and Adon Gallagher took another Class 12 win in their Mark II Escort. In the hotly contested Class 3 battle, Raymond Conlon had been pushing for the top spot until a mishap on stage 6 saw him plummet down the leaderboard. Matters were worse for Paul Clark and Martin Byrne, who retired on the same stage. After a slow start, Johnny Jordan and Paddy McCrudden worked their way back to finish 3rd in Class 13 and 19th overall. Peter Wilson and John McCarthy had led Class 13 after the opening loop, but they had to settle for 2nd in class and 14th overall in the end. David Moffat and Martin Conley took their 2nd Class 13 win in a row and finished 12th overall in their Starlet. Just 2.2 seconds ahead in 11th were Stuart Darcy and JJ Kremen, who finished 5th in Class 14. JF Shovlin and Emmett Brosnan were a further 2.7 seconds ahead in 4th and finished 10th overall. An altercation with a chicane bale on stage 6 cost Chris Armstrong and Gavin Doherty, as they finished 3rd in class and 9th overall. 18 seconds ahead were Kevin Eves and Chris Smelly, who took 3rd in class and 8th overall. But taking the two-wheel drive win after another fantastic drive in the Darien T90 were James Stafford and Jeff Case, who finished 4th overall in the end.
Yeah, very happy with all of it. It was a tough day. The boys kept us under pressure there all through the day, and we're just happy to get to the end.
To the four-wheel drive classes now, and taking the Class 15 win were Gavin Gallagher and Fintan Monaghan in the Mitsubishi Evo 8. In Class 20, 3rd place moves Darren McKelvey and Dean O'Sullivan to the top of the points table after 2 rounds. Just 1 point behind them after finishing 2nd in class are Aaron McLaughlin and Darren Kern. Taking the Class 20 win and 17th overall were Tom Holton and Ger Leach, who tie for 2nd on the points table. In Class 4, there was massive disappointment for Michael Boyle and Dermot McCafferty when they retired with differential trouble at the end of Stage 6. Trevor Bustard and John McCafferty took 3rd in class. Shane Maguire and Anthony Nestor took 2nd in class and finished 15th overall.
2 left into 1 right, into caution. 3 left over bridge, 1 right over jump. 80. Left and line, flat 3 right in, carry.
But taking the Class 4 win and 13th overall were Niall Devine and Liam McIntyre in the Mitsubishi Evo 9.
It was a great result. It was a great rally. Really enjoyed it, and it was good to get the Group N1. It definitely was.
In Class 5, there was disappointment on the final test for event sponsor Paul Rowley, who had been pushing for a top 10 overall finish when he clipped a rock and broke the wishbone in his Fiesta R5. Unable to steer, he crashed into a ditch. Thankfully, both he and navigator Dara Mullen were okay. Former tarmac champions Darren Gass and Enda Sherry took Class 5 and finished 6th overall in the new for-hire Skoda Fabia R5. A spin and a stall on Stage 6 cost Padraig Egan and Brian Hazzett a potential overall podium finish, and they had to settle for 7th overall and 2nd in Class 7. Taking the Class 7 trophy and 5th overall were Joe McGonigal and Kieran Geeney in the Mini. To the overall podium finishers now, and after an ill-judged opening loop, Patter Herson and Damien Conley worked their way back from 8th place to take a fine 3rd overall in the end. Roy White and James O'Brien were pleased to go one better than the opening round to take 2nd overall. But there's still work to be done to catch the early championship pace setters and winners of the Ardmore Air Conditioning Midland Moto Stages Rally, Josh Moffat and Andy Hayes. The pair made it 2 wins from 2 as they arrived back at Rally HQ at the Longford Arms Hotel with over a minute to spare.
Yeah, we're over the moon for sure. It's been a great day. The weather's been good, and we got the power stage there at the end as well, so that's a good bonus for us. We've had plenty of fun out there, so over the moon.
And there's confirmation of the results, which sees Josh Moffat and Andy Hayes look like serious title contenders even at this early stage of the season.
Josh Moffat's bid to finally lift the VAR Memorial Trophy is right on track as he takes the win here for round 2 of the Triton Showers National Rally Championship. Join us next time when we head to Monaghan. We'll see you then.